Hi, everyone. Hi, my sip and thinkers. It's your wonderful host, Sherry. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. Just waiting on this snowstorm to hit us. Anyways, our topic for tonight is the effects of the moon lunar clockwork. And I have my trapped ruby sip and think mug. So obviously, I'm still on the moon effects, right? If you follow me on my other channel at Sherry's Dreamcatcher, we recently did a live on January 13th regarding the wolf full moon, followed by another live the other day on wolf and lone wolf spirit. And we were kind of reflecting on the moon. And so I figured for our sip and think, we would talk more about it. And so the topic came up with the effects of the moon lunar clock. So right off the bat, we're going to start with per Google, because I like to give credit where credit's due. The moon's gravitational pull affects Earth in many ways, including tides, climate, and the ability of animals to navigate. And we talked about the wolf navigating in the Sherry Deer Dreamcatcher series on my other channel. So if you want to check that out, please go ahead. I'd love your input. Um, and I've talked about the moon and tides before on some of my sipping things. The reason being is that I grew up on the ocean, and my family are fishermen and lobstermen, and I'm married into the Narragansett tribe. And so the moon definitely has meaning for us here culturally. But I think it has a lot of meaning across the world. I was always taught that the moon controls the tides, whether it's high tide or low tide, right? And as humans, we're what, 70 to 80% water? So if the moon can control the tides and it controls water, wouldn't it be able to control humans too and their behaviors? Which is why I was trying to think of, let's come up with a topic, off of these full moons and see what we can find out, right? So, forgive me, not used to wearing glasses. So, from my research, the moon has influence on tides, climate, navigation, and sleep. Tides. The moon's gravitational pull causes the Earth's oceans to bulge, creating high and low tides. Now, growing up and learning about the moon and how it affects the tides, I did not really understand that it was coming from a gravitational pull, right? So I'm learning just as you're learning. The timing and height of tides are affected by the shape of the earth, the depth of the ocean, and the presence of the continents. Spring tides occur when the earth, moon, and sun are aligned, causing higher high tides and lower low tides. So if we get a really bad storm, everyone is wondering, when is it high tide, when is it low tide, because that's going to let us know as locals if we're going to see some major flooding going on. So this is kind of why we follow the moon, right? And the tides, aside from being in the fishing industry. Climate. The moon's gravitational pull stabilizes the Earth's spin on its axis, which helps to maintain a stable climate. Without the moon, Earth's wobble would be more erratic, and the seasons, days, and nights would be very different. Navigation. The moon is essential for migration and navigation for many animals, especially birds. You ever hear of birds? Oh, they're in the Northeast. They'll fly south for the winter, right? Navigation, to me, navigating at powwows on the reservation in the woods in August. That's what we do here for the Narragansetts. And we use our eyesight and we walk by the light of the moon. Like the moon is our guide, it's our light. So I can just imagine that that is the same for many animals that are trying to navigate at night. Again, this is sip and think. So no right or wrong answers. Sleep. The bright light from a full moon can impact your ability to fall asleep and stay asleep. People experience lower sleep efficiency, less deep sleep, and delayed time reaching REM sleep during a full moon. Other effects. The moon's gravitational pull has slowed Earth's spin, lengthening our days. The moon's tides are slowly pushing it away from Earth, increasing the distance between the two bodies. According to the Natural History Museum, located in London, England, the moon affects life on Earth in three main ways. And the effects impact our daily lives through time, tides, and light. For many animals, particularly birds, the moon is essential to migration and navigation. Other will time their reproduction to coincide with the specific phases of the lunar cycle. There is also a whole world of fascinating adaptation. It's because I try to read too fast, right? There is a whole world of fascinating adaptations relating to tides and the unique properties of moonlight, which brings me to I did print an article. Mhm. I like doing research, I guess, and learning. So, the Healthline article, Full Moon Effects. How does a full moon affect our physical and mental well being? Well, in the beginning of tonight's live, I was trying to talk about how the moon affects the high tide, the low tide, and that as humans, we are mostly water. And if the moon can control the water, then why couldn't it control or influence the human as well, right? So, in an article on Healthline, written by Rebecca Joy Stanborough, there are many common beliefs about how the full moon can influence everything from sleep quality to mental health and heart health. However, only a few of these have been proven in studies. In Shakespeare's Othello, the maid Amelia tells Othello that the moon has drawn too close to the earth and driven men insane. The idea that a full moon can stir up emotions, provoke bizarre behavior, and cause physical illness isn't just a literary trope. It's a strong held belief even today. As powerful as the ancient belief appears to be, there's little science to back up the theory that a full moon causes a swift uptick in emergency room visits or mental health unit admissions. Here's what researchers have found about the moon's effects on human bodies and behavior. The full moon effect. For centuries, physicians and philosophers blamed behavioral changes on the pull of the moon. The word lunatic, after all, stemmed from the idea that changes in mental state were related to lunar cycles. The connection between the two is even supported in historic legal treatises, treatises, treatises. Maybe, I don't know. All right, I'll have to look that one up. For instance, famed British jurist William Blackstone wrote that people gained and lost their ability to reason according to the moon's shifting phases. The lunar effect is based on the belief that health and behavior are altered during specific stages of the lunar cycle, with some claiming that it can affect everything from reproductive health to sleep quality and beyond. Sources of superstition. The idea that the moon impacts certain aspects of physical and mental health can be traced back to ancient Greece and Rome and is well documented in the writings of classical authors like Aristotle and Lucilius. During the 1970s, psychiatrist Arnold Lieber theorized that the moon influenced the body's biological tides and altered human behavior, leading to increased rates of violence and homicide. While many of these theories have since been debunked, the possibility that humans could be affected by the moon's cycle isn't entirely groundless. The ocean tides rise and fall in time with the moon's phases, and several marine species, including reef coral, sea dwelling worms, and some fish, have reproductive cycles that are roughly timed to lunar cycles. Still, not many studies linked the moon to human behavior and health condition. Here's what researchers can tell us about the connections that do exist between people and the full moon. Full moon in your sleep. When the moon is full and bright, it may affect the quality of your sleep, may affect sleep latency. Interestingly, one 2021 study found that people fell asleep later and slept less overall on the nights before the full moon. Other research suggests that the full moon may be associated with less deep sleep and increased REM, which is rapid eye movement latency. Sleep latency is the period between when you first fall asleep and when you enter the first stage of REM sleep. So, increased latency means it takes longer time to get to the REM sleep. Other causes of REM sleep latency can include some medications. Deep sleep occurs just before REM sleep begins. The moon may affect males and females differently. A 2015 study of 205 people found that the full moon may affect sleep differently in males and females. Many females sleep less and have less REM sleep when the full moon phase is near, whereas males have more REM sleep close to a full moon. In 2016, a group of researchers examined the sleep cycles of children in 12 countries. They found that children slept 1% less during the full moon phase. However, they didn't find any association between this change in sleep and significant differences in behavior during that period. However, though many studies point to an association between sleep and lunar cycles, not all of them do. A 2015 study involving 2,125 people found no link between the full moon and changes in sleep pattern. So they're doing studies, they're having conflicting, obviously, results. In some of my research, and a lot of times when you're working with nurses, I work in the health field, you always be like, oh my God, is there a full moon? What is going on? They tend to see an uptick in the emergency rooms whenever there's a full moon. But then there's the after effect of the full moon. I mean, how many times have we been like, has there been a full moon? Is there a full moon coming? Usually it's before the full moon, during the full moon, after the full moon. And it's usually like a week before the full moon, and then the week tampering off. Full moon, mood, and mental health. The human body has adapted to eons of exposure to daylight and darkness. This has led to the development of circadian rhythms that affect many of your body's systems, not just your sleep wake cycle. Circadian rhythms affect your physical and mental health too. But the widespread use of electronic light means many of your circadian rhythms are adapting to new light and dark patterns. When circadian rhythms wobble, it can cause or increase symptoms of certain mental health disorders, including anxiety, bipolar disorder, depression, schizophrenia. Does the full moon still have the power to disrupt your circadian rhythm? It brightens the sky by a lowly zero point 0.1 to zero point 0.3 lux, compared with a single street light, 15 lux, or a cell phone screen, 40 lux. So, are full moons really associated with changes in mood and mental health? The prevailing scientific evidence says no. Researchers in a 2017 study analyzed emergency room records at a 140-bed hospital and found that people visited the ER because of a psychiatric condition in roughly equal numbers during all four phases of the moon. A 2019 review of nearly 18,000 medical records from different facilities found the same thing: no relationship between lunar cycles and the length of hospital stays or the number of inpatient admissions or discharges at psychiatric facilities. I'm not sure if they're really putting budgets into learning that. So, but the more you learn about the moon, the more you learn about human anatomy and the water and the ocean and your spirit guides, the more you'll probably understand it. Those with bipolar disorder may be affected. One marked exception to this general conclusion does exist. Researchers have found that those with bipolar disorder may be affected by the changes in the lunar cycle. Specifically, a 2018 study examined 17 people whose bipolar disorder tended to switch rapidly from depression to mania. Basically, it was heightened, right? The study showed that the circadian pacemaker, a small group of nerves, in these individuals became synchronized with lunar patterns. This caused changes in their sleep that then triggered a shift from depression symptoms to mania symptoms. In a 2019 case study of a woman with bipolar 2 disorder, researchers suggested that this moon mood connection can be treated by changing some medications, especially thyroid medications and antidepressants, using light therapy. Think about it. If it gets heightened, right? If you're going to have a high tide and it's a full moon, it's a high tide. Same thing with the full moon and low tide. It's a low tide, right? So, in a human body and a gravitational pull, if someone has this disorder, the gravitational pull, right, is pulling it into that mania, right? So, it's getting heightened. Full moon and your cardiovascular system. As the moon comes closer to the Earth, its gravitational pull changes, and the Earth's large bodies of water respond with higher tides. Scientists have wondered whether the changing gravitational pull might also affect how fluids react inside your body. Here's what they found: it may affect blood pressure. So, in a 2013 study on male university students, researchers measured the effects of changing lunar cycles on the participants' cardiovascular systems. They found that blood pressure dropped by around 5 mmHg during new moon and full moon phases. Interesting, huh? The students also took a step test. Their heart rate and blood pressure were both lower during full and new moons. Plus, their heart rates returned to normal levels more quickly during full and new moons. In this study, researchers concluded that humans were more physically efficient during full and new moons. However, this finding conflicts somewhat with other research, including 2020 study on male athletes that found no significant difference in athletic performance during different lunar phases. Another study in people with type 2 diabetes found that lunar cycles did not influence blood pressure, but did impact other related functions, including blood sugar levels and heart rate. Just, it's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting to wonder if the moon is affecting the fluids inside of us, right? Blood's a fluid, right? Full moon and violence, aggression, trauma, and suicide. I don't know why it's all negative, but they're saying it affects our behavior in these ways. For decades, possibly even centuries, People have persisted in believing that there are more assaults, traumas, and suicides during full moon periods because our emotions are controlled by the tides, which are controlled by the moon or influence. I should use the word influence, right? So if our moods are influenced, whenever there's a full moon, it's almost like it increases and increases to the point where you're about to explode and you can't take it anymore. So it doesn't necessarily mean that the person is crazy. It's just like, that's the icing on the cake. I need to get it off my shoulders. I need to release. What does the moon do? It helps us release. Release, 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 release. You know? And a lot of times we're just like, okay, okay, another day. We're on the hamster wheel and our mood, and we're like, all right. And it's just like the icing on the cake happens, and it usually happens around a full moon. I don't have scientific backup on that. I'm just telling you what I think and from my experience. Or maybe it's just based on me, but who knows? Numerous researchers have tackled these questions. They've reviewed records, conducted their own studies, and came to this conclusion. A full moon doesn't cause an increase in these human behaviors. In fact, one study found that during a full moon, incidents of homicide drop slightly. Similarly, I can't even say. Similarly, another study showed that there was no significant difference in admissions at a trauma center during a full moon. The moon and menstrual cycles. The moon takes roughly a month to orbit the Earth. Since many menstrual cycles are about the same length, people have made a connection between the moon and its effects on menstrual periods, but they're not actually synchronized. A 2021 study confirms this. In the study, researchers followed 529 females through 6 menstrual cycles, and they found no association between lunar phases and the onset of menstrual cycles. On the subject of human reproductive cycles, it may also comfort you to know that a full moon isn't going to send you into a sudden delivery if you're pregnant either. Incorrect conclusions. An illusionary correlation is a type of thinking error. It happens when you draw the wrong conclusions because you haven't taken it into account all the data, just some of it. For example, if you visit a new city and have a few unpleasant encounters with locals, you might come away thinking that everyone from that city is rude. In coming to that conclusion, you'd be overlooking many positive or neutral interactions you had and focusing only on the negative ones. Here's that famous word I have trouble with. Similarly, people may have noticed a behavioral episode or a traumatic incident and chalked it up to the full moon because they've heard myths about an association between the two. Do we use the full moon as an excuse to release? And maybe when we release, we become lunatics. I mean, it's just a thought. It's just a thought. So, key takeaways from this Healthline article. Because the moon cycles are known to influence natural phenomena like the tides, some cultures have developed a persistent, but mostly incorrect, belief that lunar phases also influence human emotions, behaviors, and health. I don't agree with that. I truly believe the moon affects our behavior. It definitely does because our behavior is coming from our emotions. For the most part, a full moon doesn't cause people to become more aggressive, violent, anxious, or depressed. For the most part, that's what they're saying. However, icing on the cake, you never know. Maybe they've been holding stuff in for a while. And during that full moon, It was pulling those fluids in those moods, and it was influencing it, and it said, "You know what? You know what? I just might be a little bit more anxious today. I just might be a little more aggressive than I normally am," you know? And I can blame it on the full moon. There does seem to be a link between the phases of the moon and changes in symptoms of bipolar disorder. There's also some evidence that a full moon can lead to a less deep sleep and a delay in entering into REM sleep. In addition, some studies have shown a slight change in cardiovascular conditions during a full moon. Scientists continue to study how the moon influences various psychological systems. For now, though, it appears the effect of this heavenly body on your body is less powerful than once believed. You know, please sip and think about this article. I will put the link down below. Really think about that. Like, I really want to know, do you think the moon affects your behavior and your mood? Do you act a little crazy during a full moon? Or do you feel that huge release and feel so much better? You know? Back to our National History Museum out of London, England, on the lunar clock, since we're talking about lunar, which isn't Luna another name for the moon in another language? It's possible you've heard of circadian rhythms, which is a 24-hour cycle. They refer to day and night cycles driven by Earth orbiting the sun. Human circadian rhythms are easily thrown off by jet lag or a change of the clocks. But there are also circaluna rhythms, which are tied to lunar cycles. Circaluna rhythms are very different to discern, but they have effects on different types of organisms. Some animals will respond to both circadian rhythm and a lunar clock. So if we go back to the REM, right? The rapid eye movement for sleep, it's a stage of sleep when most people dream, right? REM sleep is normal part of sleep cycle and is important for memory, learning, and mood. So what happens during REM sleep? Brain activity is similar to when you're awake. Eye movement. Eyes move rapidly behind closed eyelids. Music music. Oh my god, I can't even read. Muscle paralysis. Muscles in your arms and legs become temporarily paralyzed to prevent you from acting out your dreams. Have you ever been in a dream and it's so vivid and you're like screaming or you're trying to hit somebody and like you're asleep and your body's not moving, like, but you really feel like you're moving, you're hitting something, or you're screaming at the top of your lungs, but in reality, you may be twitching or you may be mumbling out your mouth, like you're screaming, screaming, right? In your dream. But in reality, you're like this, right? That's the muscle paralysis. I know because I've done this with my dreams. Breathing, heart rate, and blood pressure. These increase during REM sleep. So if your REM sleep affects your heart rate and your blood pressure, your brain activity, your eye movement, and your muscle paralysis, and the REM is affected by the moon, there's a correlation here. How much REM sleep do people get? REM sleep makes up about 25% of total sleep time. Wow. So if I'm not really getting that much sleep during a full moon, and it drops down to about maybe 5 to 10%. I don't know if that's true. I'm just throwing those figures in there right now, but it says here 25% of sleep total sleep time is REM. Now imagine at my age, I'm supposed to get at least 8 or 9 hours of sleep. However, my best sleep is 4 hours of deep, deep sleep. Oh my God, I feel so refreshed. The first REM cycle of the night is usually the shortest, and each subsequent cycle is longer. Toward the end of the night, you might spend up to half an hour in REM sleep. Why is REM sleep important? It's important for memory, learning, and mood. So obviously, I'm not getting enough REM sleep if I can't pronounce words, I can't read correctly, I seem like I'm dyslexic. Um, and sometimes my memory, it's forgetful, you know? So maybe it's because I have lack of sleep. Maybe that's it, Sherry. That is totally it. Some research suggests that dreaming might be important for creativity and problem solving. I like that. So maybe I have to, take some more melatonin or something, get more REM sleep because I'm not definitely don't think I'm hitting 25% of my REM sleep. I'll tell you that. All right. So, what is REM sleep from the National Sleep Foundation? Most people climb into bed at night without ever thinking about the different stages of sleep that their brain and again, Sherry, you and your REM. Most people climb into bed at night without ever thinking about the different stages of sleep that their brain and body. Is there more? Must be more. That's from the National Sleep Foundation. Maybe I didn't get all the information. Sleep, what is it? Why it's important, stages of REM and NREM. Rapid eye movement, sleep in this stage of sleep where most dreams happen. So I need REM for my dreams to happen and to keep my memory sane. Its name comes from how your eyes move behind your head. REM sleep, what is it? Why is it important? And how can you get it? Look it up from Harvard Health. Harvard Health. Rapid eye movement REM sleep is part of your body's normal sleep cycle. Apparently, I'm not getting any normal sleep cycle, and then you add a full moon into the mix. Oh my lord! All right. Okay. Per Wikipedia, what does lunar mean in time? Right? Because we're back now to the lunar clock. A lunar day is the time it takes for the Earth's moon to complete on its axis one synodic rotation, meaning with respect to the sun. How long is one lunar day? Well, per Google, a lunar day is 29.5 Earth days long. This is the time it takes for the moon to complete one orbit around the Earth and to return to the same position relative to the sun. This is important, people. Explanation. The moon rotates on its axis at the same rate that it orbits Earth. This is called tidal locking. The moon's rotation and revolution are equal. So the same side of the moon always faces Earth. The side of the moon that always faces Earth is called the near side. The side of the moon that always faces away from Earth is called the far side. I feel like I'm in Star Wars. The Death Star. The moon's day and night are each about 2 Earth weeks long. The moon's phases take about 29.5 days to complete. So then what is a lunar clock? Per Google, a lunar clock, also known as a moon phase clock, is a timepiece that shows the current phase of the moon. Lunar clocks have been around for centuries and were especially popular in the 17th and 18th centuries. Now, I don't have a watch on me, so I don't have a timepiece on me, right? But they do have lunar watches that are show you different phases of the moon, right? But for me, I have this turtle shell, right? So from the indigenous native cultures, right? We have a turtle shell which shows us the lunar calendar. I purchased this to put my dad's ashes in, but I haven't done it yet. So the turtle shell, right? So these going around represent the days in a month, right? These scales represent the moon cycles. This one was made, just so you know, this is a Micmac Certificate of Authenticity, Indian Brook First Nation, Shubana Kadi Band of Micmac Indians, which is more or less Prince Edward Islands, Nova Scotia, Canada area. My dad's mom was French and Indian from Canada. So, all right. How the lunar clock works. A lunar clock has a mechanism that rotates once every 29 days, 12 hours, and 44 minutes, which is the length of the lunar cycle. The clock's main hand rotates slowly, so a second hand is used to indicate that the clock is working. The second hand moves one step each minute. The clock's dial may show the different phases of the moon, such as the full moon, new moon, first quarter, and last quarter. It can be used for tracking phases of the moon, tracking tides, and it can be a decorative piece for the home or office. And then it gets into how to make a lunar clock. You can build a lunar clock by designing a frame, mounting electronics, and adding a power supply. You can use LEDs to shine light through a sheet of paper with a printed image of the moon. Just to keep things in perspective, the moon has 8 phases: new moon, waxing crescent, first quarter, waxing gibbous, full moon, waning gibbous, third quarter, and waning crescent. So the new moon is completely in the Earth's shadow and only visible due to Earth's shine. Waxing crescent is the right side of the moon is illuminated. First quarter moon is the right side of the moon is 50.1% illuminated. Waxing gibbous, the moon's image is growing. Full moon is the moon is fully illuminated. That's what happened on January 13th, 2025. Waning gibbous, the moon's image is shrinking. Third quarter moon means that it's in its third quarter phase. And waning crescent is the moon's image is shrinking. So I just kind of wanted to go over the moon and the effects of the moon and the lunar clockwork. I think it's really important to understand how the moon works, not only with the tides, but how it works on us as humans. We can understand human behavior a little bit better when we understand the moon, right? All right, so now let's get into my cards. So I already picked 2 pop affirmations. And so today we have trust your crazy ideas and you matter. So let's start with trust your crazy ideas. Logic will get you from A to B. Imagination will take you everywhere. Albert Einstein. You matter. You are a wonderful creation. Oscar Wilde. Those are our pop affirmations. Also, I did shuffle a lot of my cards, but in shuffling some of my cards, certain ones popped out, and so I'm going to pull them. So, from my Mind of a Champion affirmations and daily actions, the card that stood out to me is I am building the tomorrow I want. We're taking action, we're creating habits and routines, right? Just like the wolf. If you want to learn more about the wolf, it's at Sherry's Dreamcatcher under Dare Dreamcatcher series. And that was called The Wolf and the Lone Wolf Spirit Animal. For daily positive thoughts and affirmations, these 3 cards popped out. Okay, so first it was this purple one right here. I release all fears and doubts. I am safe. So again, with the full moon, we're releasing, right? So we are releasing all fears and doubts about ourselves. And sometimes if we don't feel safe, we can be afraid, right? So I'm telling myself I'm safe and I'm releasing all fears and doubts about myself. The other 2, as I was shuffling that dropped out, were these 2. I love myself unconditionally. I give myself space to make mistakes and grow. I enjoy this journey of my life. Making time to nurture myself is a part of my daily routine. Feeling good is my highest priority. Whoops, dropped again. I guess this is. Pay attention to this one because it dropped again. Making time to nurture myself is part of my daily routine. A routine, right? The wolf spirit, wolf moon, creating habits and new routines. Feeling good is my highest priority. And I can feel good, right? By releasing fears and doubts and feeling safe. It's okay to make mistakes. They help you grow. Okay. Listen, bitch, I already shuffled these, and so this is the first card I'm pulling out. What's it say? Sometimes letting go is the best way to free yourself. So when we let go of our self-doubt, we free ourselves, right? Love yourself unconditionally. Give yourself time to make mistakes and grow. Enjoy the journey, right? Impact deck. So we're going to look at our impact deck, which is action cards that challenge us to expand our comfort zone and get something done. So as you know, if we move out of our comfort zone, that's where the magic happens. So we're going to try to transition. Impact deck, reflections. What's getting in the way of you being exactly who you want to be? Is it your doubts and fears, not feeling safe? We need to kind of get rid of those. We only have a certain amount of time within this full moon. Usually there's about 12 to 13 full moons. Each year is different. This year, when I did the research, there's 12 full moons, and usually full moons are about releasing old patterns, habits. And so if it's January and we want to create something new for ourselves, there's no better time than now to let these fears and doubts go so that you can work on being exactly who you want to be. That's a reflection, okay? Action deck. Get something off your chest in a loving way. Okay, what are you telling me? I did shuffle these. So apparently, I need to communicate a little bit more, continue to release, and get things off my chest. Sometimes getting things off your chest can come from your creative side and your expressive side. And then our affirmations impact deck. I own my truth and I speak it freely. Again, communication. I hear you. They want me to communicate. They don't want me to be afraid of judgments and doubts. They just want me to communicate, whether it's with myself or other people. Okay. And our affirmators from our knock knock. So I did shuffle these, but if I don't like them, I'll reshuffle them. How about that? Ooh, inspiration. There is a voice of inspiration within me. Right now, it's only a whisper, but the more I listen, the louder it will get. Soon it will be a flawless speech voiced by James Earl Jones, Darth Vader, through a megaphone with lots of applause. Remember, with the wolf spirit, it teaches us to listen. The wolf teaches us to listen, right? Listen, listen to what's inside of you. And the more I listen to myself, the louder it will get. Means the more confident I'm going to feel, right? And I'll be able to speak flawlessly. I do make mistakes, just so you know, and I own those mistakes, believe me. But I love James Earl Jones. I really do. So, what's your favorite James Earl Jones movie, or what was your favorite character he did? And I loved him in Coming to America. So, positive thinking. In the garden of my mind, I water the good thoughts and weed out the bad ones. I throw in forgiveness and empathy seeds by the handful if I want, and I take a lawnmower to that jealousy and resentment patch. I'm a pretty badass mind gardener. My husband would differ because I can't grow any plants in my house, probably because I'm never really home. I do have a Christmas cactus, and that's blooming. But if we think of ourselves as a garden or our mind as a garden and we feed it and take care of it, it will grow, right? It's saying I need to throw in some forgiveness and empathy if I want. Get rid of that jealousy and resentment patch. Take that lawnmower. Get rid of that jealousy shit. Letting go. You really are talking to me, aren't you? I don't dwell on bad things that happened. I let things go because I have enough heavy things to carry around. And also, grudges aren't a great look. I'm ever going to move forward on my journey, I need to release and let go. I have said it before on my Sip and Thinks. I have a hard time letting things go. Sometimes I wish that I had no emotions and I could just be like, yeah, whatever, and keep going. But the truth is, I'm an emotional being. And my emotions, they are influenced by the moon and the tides. You know, I am literally like an ocean. My this is how my moods and my emotions are all the time. So that's why I tell you sometimes I don't even feel like doing something because my mood isn't in the mood. And then there's other times where I'm like, yeah, let's go, rock it, you know? But that's just me. Everybody is different. That's what makes us unique. But with the full moon, we need to do some positive thinking, get rid of jealousy and resentment. Let it go, Sherry. Let it go. It happened. We have to accept it, right? Accept the things you can't change, change the things that you can. That way you can come up with some inspiration, be creative, get it out. And it already said, listen, bitch, sometimes letting go is the best way to free yourself. So by letting go, I free up my mind. So I said, letting go, letting go of old ways of thinking, letting go of bad habits, letting go of resentment, letting go of jealousy. Just let it go, let it go, let it flow, let it flow. And that is all we have for tonight. So thank you for joining me on Sip and Think with Sherry. Again, if you want to check out Dear Dreamcatcher series at Sherry's Dreamcatcher, I will add that to the link as well. Just trying to right now be creative and inspiring, and letting the past go and just kind of moving forward, owning my mistakes. Logic will get you from A to B. Imagination will take you everywhere. So, A to B. Sip and think to Dear Dreamcatcher, right? You are a wonderful creation. Thanks. And so are you. All right, everybody. Enjoy your evening. If you're in the snowy area, stay safe.